My roommate gaslit me with fake screenshots into thinking my crush was using me. Then when I broke it off with her, he posted pics of them together at a cafe, thinking I wouldn't do anything about it. Ever since I was little, my parents trained me like a show dog. Perfect scores meant pats on the head, and anything less meant disappointed silence. Your brain is your only valuable asset was literally embroidered on a pillow in our living room. So when Maya, a girl in my class, asked for help in organic chemistry, of course I said yes. That's my thing. I'm the human calculator everyone uses when desperate. Except Maya, she was different. She actually cared about learning. She'd show up with 2 coffees and stay until security kicked us out. This girl had failed Orgo twice, but kept coming back. My roommate Jake thought I was an idiot for tutoring her free. Same guy who saved me freshman year when my klepto roommate stole my calculator before finals. Jake seemed solid. 6 months in though, Maya went from bombing quizzes to pulling B's. And yeah, I'd caught feelings. She had this nose scrunch thing when conjugating molecules. Started bringing me Red Bull because she noticed I crashed at 3 p.m. When she finally understood reaction mechanisms, her whole face transformed. But Jake kept planting doubts. She only hits you up for homework, or weird how she's busy when you want to hang outside the library. Those comments ate at me. I finally decided to confess after our Thursday session. But Wednesday night, Jake came over with this constipated look. You deserve to know. He showed me screenshots from some group chat. Maya's name at the top. At least the tutoring is free, and he's useful, but definitely not boyfriend material. I felt like such a tool. I'd noticed Maya dressing nicer lately. Made sense now. She was probably meeting some Chad after using me. Next day, Maya bounced in with Tupperware. I made you cookies. Extra chocolate chips. I couldn't process it. My brain screamed to get out. I can't tutor you anymore. Her face crumbled. What? Why? Useful, but not boyfriend material. I spat the words and watched her drain of color. What are you talking about? I grabbed my stuff and said, I'm done being used. The confusion in her eyes almost broke through my anger. Almost. But my bruised ego won, and I bailed, leaving her clutching those homemade cookies. For 2 weeks, I went hermit mode. Just me and MCAT prep. Jake was weirdly supportive, saying I deserved someone who appreciated me. But something bugged me. Maya hadn't reached out once. Girl who retook Orgo 3 times suddenly gives up. End of semester. Packing up. I found Jake's calculus notebook. Opened it, and my brain short-circuited. The handwriting was all loops and curves. Feminine. Nothing like Jake's chicken scratch. My hands shook as I dug out my Orgo notebook where Maya had written practice problems. Identical handwriting. I tore through Jake's notebooks, page after page of Maya's handwriting. She'd been tutoring him in calculus. Jake walked in, saw me surrounded by evidence, went ghost white. I said, Maya was tutoring you. He tried playing cool. Doesn't change what she said. I asked, those screenshots were fake? His jaw clenched. I was protecting you. She wasn't good enough. You photoshopped them. She was helping you pass calc in exchange for advice about me. His face went red. You never make moves. Someone had to do something. I said, by making me think she was using me? He grabbed his stuff and stormed out. That night, his Instagram story made me want to punch walls. Him and Maya at a coffee shop. Next morning, Facebook official. I stared at my phone like it betrayed me. Jake hadn't thought she wasn't good enough. He'd wanted her for himself. I started typing messages to Maya with screenshots of evidence, but then my phone buzzed. Don't even think about it. From Jake. Next text was a photo. Sophomore year. Me holding a joint at a party. He texted, med schools don't like substance violations. Your scholarship definitely won't. My scholarship had a morality clause. Any substance use meant instant termination. My parents would disown me. Just move on. We both got what we wanted. So there I sat, with proof my ex-roommate played us both just to steal her. But he had the one thing that could nuke my future. Maya posted some sappy photo about finding love in unexpected places. I had everything to expose him, but he had me by the throat. I spent 3 days staring at that photo on my phone. Jake knew exactly what he was doing. That scholarship was my lifeline. Without it, no med school, no future. My parents would probably kick me out. Dad had made it clear, one screw up and I was on my own. But Maya's face kept haunting me. The confusion when I'd thrown those fake words at her. She'd made me cookies. Who makes cookies for someone they're just using? I remembered her mentioning once that baking helped her anxiety. She must have been nervous. I couldn't sleep. Kept replaying every interaction. The way she'd light up when a concept clicked. How she'd doodle benzene rings on napkins while we talked. The time she stayed an extra hour just to help me practice for my presentation, even though she had an exam the next day. The way she remembered I was lactose intolerant and always got oat milk. None of that matched Jake's story. By day 4, I cracked. I texted Maya asking if we could talk. No response. Tried calling. Straight to voicemail. I even went to her usual study spots. The corner table at the library. The bench outside the science building where she liked to review flashcards. Nothing. Jake must have poisoned that well good. Then I remembered something. Maya volunteered at the campus food bank every Saturday morning. I'd helped her carry donations once when I ran into her struggling with boxes. She'd mentioned she never missed a shift. Sure enough, Saturday at 7 a.m., there she was sorting canned goods, hair in a messy bun, wearing an old chemistry department t-shirt. She saw me and her whole body tensed. I could see her debating whether to run. I held up my hands like I was surrendering, asked if we could just talk for 5 minutes. She looked at me like I might bite, but she nodded, told her supervisor she needed a quick break. We went outside. The morning was cold, and she wrapped her arms around herself. I pulled out my phone and showed her Jake's notebooks, her handwriting all over them, explained how I'd found them, how Jake admitted to faking the screenshots. Her face went through about 12 emotions: confusion, realization, anger, then this awful hurt look that made my chest tight. She asked why I believed him so easily. Her voice was quiet, defeated. I didn't have a good answer, just mumbled something about my insecurities, how I'd always felt like the nerdy guy girls settled for when they needed help. She told me Jake had approached her about calc help, said he wanted to surprise me by improving his grades, that I always worried about him failing out. She'd been helping him for weeks. In exchange, he gave her advice about how to ask me out, helped her pick out those sundresses, told her I liked vanilla perfume, assume. My stomach dropped through the floor. She'd been planning to ask me out with the cookies. That's why she made them. Chocolate chip because I'd mentioned once they were my favorite. Jake knew. He'd helped her plan it. Then he destroyed it all. I wanted to tell her everything. About the blackmail, the photo, how he was threatening to destroy my future. But Jake's threat echoed in my head. So I just stood there like an idiot. Maya wiped her eyes and said she had to get back. But first she asked if Jake had threatened me. Girl was too smart. She studied my face like it was an organic chemistry problem. I couldn't answer. She nodded like that confirmed something. Said she'd figured Jake was up to something when he suddenly asked her out, right after our fight. Too convenient. But she'd been so hurt and confused. And Jake was there with explanations and comfort. Classic rebound. She wasn't even sure why she'd said yes, except that it hurt less than being alone. She walked away, and I felt like the world's biggest coward. I had proof my best friend was a manipulative snake, but I was too scared to use it. That night, I got another text from Jake. A reminder. The photo again. Stopped talking to her, but something had shifted. Seeing Maya's pain lit a fire in me. This wasn't just about me anymore. Jake had hurt her too. Used her kindness. Manipulated her feelings. Turned her generosity into a weapon against both of us. I started planning. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of Jake's texts. Photos of his notebooks with Maya's handwriting. Even dug up our old conversations where he'd pushed me to doubt her. Built a file like I was preparing for the world's most personal court case. But that photo hung over everything like a storm cloud. Jake started getting paranoid. Kept showing up at my room unannounced, checking if I was talking to Maya. He'd make these casual threats disguised as friendly reminders. Hope you're focusing on finals. Would hate for any distractions to mess up your future. Real subtle. I played along. Acted defeated. Let him think he'd won. Meanwhile, I was trying to figure out how to protect myself from that photo. Researched my scholarship terms until my eyes burned. The morality clause was airtight. Even being in the presence of illegal substances could trigger review. That one stupid hit sophomore year could end everything. Then I remembered something. My old roommate, the klepto who'd stolen my calculator. Ralph. He'd been at that party. Actually, he'd been the one who brought the joint. I still had his number from when we'd had to coordinate moving out. Long shot, but worth trying. Ralph answered on the third ring. Sounded high. Typical. I asked if he remembered that party sophomore year. He laughed and said barely, but his girlfriend at the time had taken like 1,000,000 photos. They'd broken up, but he still had them on an old phone somewhere. Asked why I cared. I made up some story about needing proof I was there for a bet. He bought it because Ralph would believe anything if you said it involved money. Said he'd look for the phone and text me. I figured it was a dead end, but at least I was trying something. Meanwhile, Jake and Maya were doing the whole campus couple thing. Study dates in the library, lunch in the quad. He'd post these staged photos with captions about finding unexpected love. Made me want to throw my phone, but Maya looked off in every picture. Smile not reaching her eyes. The same look she'd had when she couldn't understand electron movement. 2 weeks passed. Finals approaching like a freight train. I was running on Red Bull in spite. Then Ralph texted. He'd found the phone. Had about 200 photos from that party. My heart hammered as I scrolled through them. Blurry shots of red cups and bad dancing. Then I found it. The photo Jake had was cropped. In the full version, you could see Jake next to me, holding the joint out, his face clear as day, and in the background, timestamp visible on someone's laptop. 2:47 a.m. I cross-referenced with my calendar. I had organic chemistry at 8 a.m. that morning. Posted about it on Twitter, complaining about the early class. Time-stamped 7:45 a.m. No way I was high 5 hours after that photo, and coherent enough to tweet about electron configurations. Plus, the full photo showed Jake as the one actually holding the substances. He'd cropped himself out to frame me. I saved everything to 3 different clouds, emailed copies to myself, even printed hard copies because I was paranoid, but I still needed more. Jake was smart. He'd have backups, probably more dirt. I needed to be strategic. Started hanging around his friend group, casual conversations, fishing for information. Turns out Jake had a pattern. His ex from freshman year, Brenda, mentioned he'd tried something similar, spread rumors about her cheating when she'd tried to break up with him, claimed he had photos. She'd stayed an extra month out of fear before realizing he was bluffing. Another girl, Heather, said he'd threatened to tell her parents about her tattoo. They were super religious. Would have cut her off. She'd had to tutor him in statistics for a whole semester to keep him quiet. Starting to see a pattern here. I reached out to both of them, explained what was happening with Maya. Brenda was immediately on board, still furious about her experience. Heather was more hesitant but agreed to back me up if needed. We started a group chat, comparing notes, building a timeline of Jake's manipulation. Then Maya texted me out of nowhere. Can we meet? Urgent. My heart nearly stopped. Jake had probably seen us talking at the food bank. Was he escalating? I agreed to meet her at this 24-hour diner off campus. Less chance of Jake showing up. She looked exhausted, hair unwashed, bags under her eyes. She slid into the booth and immediately asked if Jake was blackmailing me. No dancing around it, just straight to the point. I tried to deflect, but she pulled out her phone, showed me texts from Jake. He'd been getting increasingly controlling, demanding to know where she was every minute, going through her phone. Classic manipulation tactics ramping up. She said she'd tried to break up with him. He'd lost it. Started yelling about how she owed him, how he'd saved her from wasting time on a loser like me. Then he'd let slip something about keeping me in line, making sure I knew my place. That's when she knew for sure he had something on me. I finally cracked, showed her the photo, explained the scholarship situation, the morality clause, how one substance violation would end my medical career before it started. Her face went dark in a way I'd never seen. The girl who cried over accidentally stepping on a snail looked ready to commit unaliving. She asked if I had the full photo. When I showed her Ralph's version with Jake clearly visible, she smiled. Not a nice smile. The kind that made me grateful she was on my side. She said she had an idea but needed a few days. Made me promise not to do anything until she gave the signal. Those few days were torture. Jake kept pushing boundaries, showing up at my study spots with Maya, making comments about how well they fit together, how she'd finally found someone worth her time. Maya played along, but I could see see her jaw clenching. Girl deserved an Oscar. Then Thursday night, she texted, "Tomorrow, be ready." Friday morning, I was vibrating with nervous energy. Didn't know what Maya had planned, but trusted her. She was smarter than both Jake and me combined. If anyone could fix this mess, it was her. I was in the library when it started. Maya walked in with Jake. They sat at a table near mine, close enough to hear, but not obvious. Jake was going on about summer plans, how they should take a trip together. Maya was nodding along. Then she dropped a bomb. She mentioned how sweet it was that he'd helped her plan asking me out, how he'd picked out the sundresses, helped her bake the cookies. Jake's face went still. He tried to deflect, but Maya kept pushing. Innocent voice, like she was genuinely confused about the timeline. "But then you said those screenshots were real. Were you lying when you helped me, or when you showed me those messages?" Jake started stumbling over his words, trying to explain, but every excuse dug him deeper. Maya kept asking innocent questions. When exactly had he taken those screenshots? Why hadn't he shown them to her earlier if he knew? How did he happen to have them ready right when she was planning to confess? People were starting to stare. Jake's voice was getting louder, more defensive. Maya stayed calm, kept asking questions. Then she pulled out her phone, said she wanted to check the dates on those screenshots, compare them to their tutoring schedule. Jake grabbed for her phone. Bad move. Why can't I see them? If they're real, what's the problem? Jake was sweating now, making threats about how she didn't know who she was messing with, how he could ruin both of us. That's when Maya smiled again, that dangerous smile. "Like you tried to ruin your ex Brenda, or when you blackmailed Heather?" Jake went white. Maya had done her homework. She started listing every person he'd manipulated, every threat he'd made. People were definitely watching now, recording on their phones. Jake tried to leave, but Maya wasn't done. She stood up and announced to the whole library that Jake had photoshopped fake messages to break us up, that he'd manipulated her into dating him, that he was currently blackmailing me with an edited photo. Her voice carried across the silent library. Jake lost it, started screaming about the photo, how I was a substance user, how he had proof. He pulled out his phone, waving it around, showed the cropped photo to anyone who'd look, yelling about morality clauses and scholarships, basically confessing to blackmail in front of 50 witnesses. That's when I stood up, pulled out my phone, projected Ralph's full photo on the library wall using the presentation setup. There was Jake, clear as day, holding the joint, the timestamp visible. The murmur from the crowd was immediate, but Maya wasn't done. She'd recorded Jake admitting to the fake screenshots, had him on audio confessing to photoshopping them, planning the whole thing. She played it on speaker, Jake's own voice echoing through the library, talking about protecting me from her, how he deserved her more, how I'd never make a move so he had to. The crowd turned hostile quick. People started recognizing Jake, remembering their own weird interactions with him. Someone mentioned how he'd threatened to leak their group project if they didn't do his portion. Another person brought up how he'd spread rumors about them. Jake tried damage control, stammering about context, how we didn't understand. But the evidence was overwhelming. The full photo, the audio confession, multiple witnesses to his blackmail attempts. He'd played himself. Then campus security showed up. Someone had called about the disruption. They tried to disperse the crowd, but Maya stepped forward, calm as could be, explained that Jake had been making threats, showed them his texts about ruining my scholarship. The security guard's face changed. Blackmail was a serious accusation. They took Jake outside to get his side. We could see him through the windows, gesturing wildly, pointing at us. But without the cropped photo as leverage, his story fell apart, especially when Brenda and Heather showed up. They'd been waiting outside, came forward with their own experiences. 3 separate blackmail attempts, pattern of behavior. Security called in their supervisor. By afternoon, it had escalated to the dean of students. Turns out the university took a very dim view of students threatening each other's scholarships, especially with photoshopped evidence. Jake tried to play victim, but the audio unalived him. His own voice admitting to creating fake screenshots, manipulating another student, threatening academic consequences. Maya had thought of everything. She'd consulted with the campus legal aid before confronting him, made sure to do it in a public space, got him to confess on recording, even had witnesses lined up. Girl played chess while Jake was playing checkers. The investigation was swift. The full photo cleared me of any wrongdoing. Being in the vicinity of someone else holding substances wasn't a violation, especially when I could prove I was in class 5 hours later. The timestamp saved me. But Jake's confession to blackmail, that was a clear honor code violation, using manipulated evidence to threaten another student's academic standing. He tried to withdraw from school before they could expel him, thought it would look better on his record, but the damage was done. Word spread fast. His friend group abandoned him. His parents found out when the school called about the investigation. Turns out they were big donors, were not happy their son was using their money to blackmail classmates. Maya broke up with him officially during the investigation, did it publicly, in the same cafe where he'd taken her for their first date, told him she'd only dated him to get evidence of his manipulation, that every moment had been gathering proof. The look on his face was priceless, like his brain couldn't process being outmaneuvered. She'd screenshotted every controlling text, documented every red flag, built a case like she was studying for finals. When she dumped the evidence file, even I was impressed. Girl had receipts for everything. Times he'd checked her phone, messages where he'd isolated her from friends, the escalating control, all dated and organized. The best part was when she revealed she'd been recording their conversations. Every threat, every manipulation tactic, every time he'd mentioned keeping me in line, she'd been using a recording app on her phone, legal in our state for personal protection. Jake had basically created evidence against himself every time he opened his mouth. His expulsion was finalized within 2 weeks, fastest I'd ever seen the administration move. Guess when you threaten the scholarship system that keeps donors happy, they take it seriously. Plus, the evidence was overwhelming. Multiple victims, clear pattern, recorded confessions. Even his academic record showed inconsistencies, grades that jumped suspiciously in classes where he'd found leverage over tutors. I kept my scholarship. The review board cleared me completely, even commended me for coming forward about the blackmail. now. Funny how being the victim of manipulation looks better than staying silent. My parents never found out how close I'd come to losing everything. Just knew I'd helped expose a bad roommate. The aftermath was interesting. People started coming forward with their own Jake stories. Guy had dirt on half the campus, or thought he did. Most of it was weak. Embarrassing photos from parties, knowledge of who was hooking up with who, petty stuff he'd blown up into major threats. But to scared college kids worried about their futures, it had seemed huge. Someone started a support group chat for Jake's victims. It grew to like 30 people. We compared notes, shared stories, realized how many of us had been isolated by his tactics, how he'd made us feel like we were alone, that no one would believe us over him. Classic manipulation 101. Brenda became an advocate for reporting academic blackmail, started working with the counseling center to create resources, turned her awful experience into something helpful, even got the school to clarify their policies on evidence manipulation. What had been a gray area became explicitly forbidden. Heather started a podcast about recognizing manipulation tactics in college relationships, not just romantic ones, friends, roommates, study partners, anyone who might use leverage against you. It got pretty popular. She had Jake's ex from high school on once. Turns out this pattern went way back. As for Maya and me, we didn't immediately start dating. Too much trauma to process, too weird after everything. But we went back to tutoring. Real tutoring this time. No hidden agendas, no one pulling strings, just two people who genuinely enjoyed each other's company, working through organic chemistry. She still brought me coffee with oat milk. I still crashed at 3 p.m. But now we talked about more than just electron configurations, about trust, about red flags we'd missed, about how easy it was to manipulate people who just wanted to help, how predators like Jake targeted people with good hearts. It took months before either of us was ready to try again. The trust issues ran deep. Every nice gesture felt loaded. Every text needed analysis. Was this genuine or another game? We had to rebuild from scratch, learn to trust our instincts again. Jake had made us doubt everything, including ourselves. The first time Maya asked if I wanted to study somewhere other than the library, I panicked. Spent an hour analyzing if this was a date or just a change of scenery. She later admitted she'd done the same. Written pro and con lists. Asked 3 friends for advice. We were a mess. But slowly, things got easier. The hypervigilance faded. We stopped looking for hidden motives in every interaction. Started remembering why we'd liked each other in the first place. Her nose still scrunched when working through difficult problems. She still lit up when concepts clicked. Still brought me Red Bull without being asked. 6 months after Jake's expulsion, she asked me out properly. No cookies this time. Just straight up asked if I wanted to go to dinner. Somewhere nice, like a real date. I said yes immediately, then spent the next week terrified it was too good to be true. She later admitted she'd felt the same. We were quite the pair. Our first official date was at this little Italian place off campus. We spent half of it talking about organic chemistry, and the other half dissecting what had happened with Jake. Not the most romantic topic, but necessary. We needed to understand how we'd both been played, how to prevent it happening again. Maya had a theory that Jake targeted people he saw as threats. I was competition academically. She was someone who could see through him eventually, so he'd found ways to control us both, use us against each other. Classic divide and conquer. Make us too busy fighting to notice his manipulation. She was probably right. Looking back, Jake had always been weirdly invested in my social life, pushing me towards certain people, away from others. I'd thought he was being a good friend, looking out for me. Really, he was managing threats, keeping me isolated and insecure, easier to control. The relationship wasn't easy at first. We both had trust issues. Passwords stayed private for months. Phones were off limits. We had to explicitly discuss boundaries that most couples never think about. Can I look at your notebook? Is it okay if I talk to your friends without you there? Stuff that Jake had made weird, but we figured it out, slowly, with a lot of communication and probably too much analysis. Maya joked we approached dating like a chemistry experiment. Hypothesis, test, analyze results, adjust approach. Not the most spontaneous, but it worked for us. Built a foundation based on actual trust instead of assumptions. A year later, she aced organic chemistry, like destroyed the curve aced, got the highest grade in a class of 200. The professor asked her to TA the next semester. She said yes on the condition she could help reform the tutoring system, make it harder for people to exploit those relationships, add oversight, create clear boundaries. I got into medical school, not my top choice, but a good program, full scholarship intact. The interview had been interesting. They'd asked about the Jake situation, how I'd handled academic blackmail, what I'd learned. I talked about integrity, about standing up for others even when it cost you. Must have been the right answer. Maya got into graduate school for chemistry, same city as my med school, completely by coincidence. Or maybe not. She'd applied to 12 programs and happened to pick the one near me. When I asked about it, she just smiled and said something about favorable reaction conditions. Chemistry humor. Still made me laugh. Jake tried to resurface once, created a fake LinkedIn to message people from our school. Some sob story about being wrongly expelled, how we'd conspired against him. Most people blocked him immediately, but a few reached out to warn us. The messages were unhinged, full of conspiracy theories about how we'd planned everything from the start. We reported the account and moved on. Didn't have the energy to engage. He'd made his choices, faced consequences. The fact that he still saw himself as the victim just proved Maya's point. People like Jake never really change. They just find new targets, new ways to manipulate. We'd been lucky to escape when we did. The funny thing was how many people thanked us afterward. Not just his direct victims, but people who'd watched him operate and felt powerless to stop it, who'd seen the manipulation but didn't know how to help. Our confrontation had given them permission to speak up, to share their own stories, to stop protecting predators out of politeness. It started a whole conversation on campus about power dynamics, consent in non-romantic relationships, how to recognize emotional blackmail. The counseling center created new programs. The honor board updated their policies. What had started as personal drama became institutional change. Not what we'd intended, but a good outcome. Looking back, the whole thing taught me more than than 4 years of classes. About trust, about manipulation, about standing up for yourself and others, about how easy it is to isolate people with shame, how powerful it is to speak truth even when someone threatens you. Lessons they don't teach in organic chemistry. Maya and I are still together. 3 years now. We joke that if we could survive Jake, we can survive anything. Med school stress, long distance during her research fellowship, my residency hours, all manageable compared to being manipulated by someone we'd trusted. Our bar for relationship problems is pretty high. We still have the screenshots, the recordings, all the evidence, saved in a folder neither of us opens. A reminder of how bad things can get when you ignore red flags, when you let fear control you, when you believe threats instead of fighting back. Our origin story isn't romantic, but it's ours. Sometimes new students reach out, heard our story through campus legend, want advice about their own Jake situations. We always tell them the same thing: document everything, find allies, don't let shame keep you silent, and remember that people who threaten you are usually more scared than you are. They're just better at hiding it. The truth is, Jake could have destroyed me if I'd let him. One photo almost derailed my entire future, but Maya saw through it, fought for us both when I was too scared to fight for myself, turned his weapons against him, used his own arrogance to bring him down. Still the smartest person I know, even if she did fail organic chemistry twice before figuring it out. These days, we tutor together sometimes. Make sure no one's alone with someone they don't trust. Create accountability. It's a small thing, but it matters. Every person we help is one less potential victim, one less Jake getting away with it, one less Maya or me feeling trapped and alone. The cookies thing became an inside joke. Every anniversary, she makes me chocolate chip cookies. Reminds us both of what almost didn't happen, what Jake tried to steal, what we fought to keep. They taste like victory, and maybe a little like revenge, but mostly like chocolate chips and second chances. My parents never did find out about the whole mess. As far as they know, their perfect son stayed perfect, kept his scholarship, got into med school, found a nice girl who shares his love of science. The embroidered pillow about my brain being my only asset is still in their living room. These days, it just makes me laugh. The next morning, I woke up to like 50 texts. My phone was basically having a seizure. Most were from people at school asking if I was okay. Some were screenshots of Jake's latest Instagram story. He'd gone full nuclear. Posted the cropped photo with a long rant about substance users getting scholarships while honest students suffered. Tagged the school, tagged the scholarship committee, tagged everyone he could think of. My hands shook as I scrolled through his posts. He was calling me a fraud, Maya, a manipulator. Said we'd conspired against him because he'd discovered my secret. Classic Jake. When cornered, he attacked harder, but this time he'd miscalculated. He'd posted evidence of his own blackmail publicly. Maya called while I was still processing. She'd seen everything, told me not to panic. She had a plan. Said to meet her at the campus legal aid office in an hour, to bring all my evidence, every screenshot, every recording, the full photo from Ralph, everything. I threw on clothes and grabbed my laptop. My evidence folder was getting heavy. Months of documentation, proof of Jake's patterns, his threats, his lies. But would it be enough against his public attack? He'd tagged people with actual power, people who could end my career before it started. The legal aid office was packed. Maya was already there with Brenda and Heather, plus 3 other people I didn't recognize. Turns out Jake had been busy. These were other victims who'd seen his posts and reached out. One girl, Sarah, said he'd threatened to tell her coach about her anxiety medication. Another guy, Paul, had been blackmailed about his immigration status. Jake had dirt on everyone. The legal aid lawyer looked overwhelmed. 7 students with evidence against one guy. She said this was beyond normal campus drama. Jake posting the photo publicly changed things. It was defamation now, harassment, possibly criminal blackmail. She recommended we go straight to the dean of students. Today, we marched across campus like some weird army. 7 stressed college kids with laptops full of evidence. People stared. Word was already spreading about Jake's posts. I heard whispers, saw people checking their phones, looking at me. My worst nightmare playing out in real time. The dean's office wasn't ready for us. 7 students showing up without an appointment caused chaos. But when Maya explained why we were there, everything changed. The dean had seen Jake's posts, was already getting calls from concerned donors. The scholarship committee was freaking out. This was a PR nightmare. We spent 3 hours in that office, each of us telling our story, showing our evidence. The dean's face got darker with each revelation. Jake hadn't just blackmailed a few students. He'd created a whole system, found leverage on anyone who might challenge him, used it to control his entire social circle. The full photo from Ralph shut down Jake's substance accusation immediately. The timestamp proved everything, but the dean was more interested in the pattern. 7 students, 7 different threats, all documented, all leading back to Jake. This wasn't isolated incidents. It was systematic manipulation. By the time we finished, the dean looked exhausted. She said this was the worst case of student misconduct she'd seen in 20 years. Asked if we wanted to press criminal charges. The legal aid lawyer said we should consider it. Blackmail was a felony. We had enough evidence to bury him. I just wanted it over. But Maya disagreed. Said if we didn't stop him here, he'd do it again somewhere else. To other people. We had a responsibility. The others agreed. Even Paul, who was terrified of any legal attention, said Jake needed real consequences. We left the dean's office with a promise of immediate action. The school would investigate formally, contact law enforcement. In the meantime, we were to save all evidence and avoid contact with Jake. Like I wanted to talk to that psycho anyway. Walking back across campus was surreal. People were still staring, but now some were approaching, offering support, sharing their own Jake stories. By the time we reached the library, we'd collected 5 more victims. Word was spreading faster than Jake's lies. That afternoon, Jake's posts disappeared. His Instagram went private, then deleted entirely. Someone said they'd seen campus security at his dorm. Others reported his parents' car in the visitor lot. The administration was moving fast. Guess when you publicly admit to blackmail, things happen quickly. Maya and I holed up in in my room, ordered pizza, tried to process everything. In one day, we'd gone from victims to witnesses in a criminal investigation. My phone kept buzzing with messages of support, people I barely knew reaching out, the campus rallying against Jake. Then Brenda texted our group. Jake was trying to leave campus. Security had stopped him at the gate, told him he couldn't leave while under investigation. He'd lost it, started screaming about his rights, how we'd ruined his life. Security had to restrain him. Someone got video. The video went viral on campus within hours. Jake completely unhinged, ranting about conspiracy, how we'd planned everything, how he was the real victim. He looked exactly like what he was, a manipulator who'd lost control, a predator exposed. No one was buying his victim act anymore. That night, the school sent an official email. Jake had been emergency suspended pending investigation, banned from campus, his student accounts frozen. They'd never moved so fast on anything, but when you publicly confess to felony blackmail, I guess they make exceptions. The next few days were insane. Local news picked up the story. University student accused of widespread blackmail scheme. They didn't name names, but everyone knew. Jake's parents hired a lawyer, tried to spin it as a misunderstanding, kids being kids. But 7 victims with documentation was hard to explain away. More people came forward. The final count was 19 students Jake had threatened or manipulated, 19 people he'd controlled through fear. The evidence was overwhelming. Screenshots, recordings, financial records showing he'd extorted money from some victims. He'd built a whole criminal enterprise. The police got involved. Real detectives, not campus security. They interviewed each of us separately, took our evidence, built a case, said this was one of the most extensive blackmail operations they'd seen at a university. Jake had been smart, but not smart enough. He'd documented his own crimes. Maya was incredible through it all. Organized the victims, made sure everyone had support, connected people with counseling, turned chaos into action. She'd failed organic chemistry twice, but could run a crisis like a general. I'd never been more impressed by anyone. The criminal charges came down 2 weeks later. 19 counts of blackmail, extortion, harassment, cyberstalking. The list went on. Jake's lawyer tried to negotiate, but the evidence was too strong. He'd literally posted confession online. Hard to argue innocence after that. His parents pulled him out of school, tried to get ahead of the expulsion, but the damage was done. Word spread to other universities. His acceptance to transfer programs got revoked. No school wanted a student with pending felony charges, especially not for systematic blackmail. The scholarship committee cleared me completely, even apologized for the stress, said they were reviewing their policies, making it harder for students to weaponize the morality clause. What Jake had done exposed flaws in their system. They were grateful we'd brought it to light. Maya and I started dating officially a month later. No more uncertainty, no more games, just 2 people who'd survived something awful together. Our first real date was anticlimactic. Coffee and studying, but it was ours. No manipulation, no hidden agendas, just us. The trial took 6 months. Jake pled guilty to avoid jail time, got probation, community service, a criminal record that would follow him forever, had to pay restitution to victims he'd extorted. His parents' money couldn't save him from consequences this time. We all testified at sentencing. 19 victims explaining how Jake had impacted our lives, the fear, the isolation, the way he'd made us doubt ourselves. Judge listened to every word, said it was one of the worst cases of peer manipulation she'd seen, gave him the maximum sentence possible. Jake tried to apologize during his statement, said he'd been insecure, felt powerless, used control to feel important. Classic manipulation even in his apology, making himself the victim. The judge shut him down, said taking accountability meant more than words. It meant accepting consequences. After court, all 19 of us went for drinks, legal ones, celebrated surviving, supporting each other, refusing to be silent. What had started as Jake trying to control us had ended with us taking back power, together, as a community. The university used our case as a teaching moment, created new programs about recognizing manipulation, reporting blackmail, supporting victims, made it clear that what Jake did wasn't normal college drama, it was criminal, and it wouldn't be tolerated. Maya and I graduated together. She got into her dream PhD program. I started med school. We kept dating through it all. Distance, stress, crazy hours, nothing compared to what we'd already survived. Jake had tried to break us before we even started. Instead, he'd made us stronger. Sometimes I think about that night I almost gave up, almost let him win, kept his secrets out of fear. If Maya hadn't pushed, if she hadn't been braver than me, if those other victims hadn't come forward, Jake would still be out there, still controlling people, still ruining lives. These days, I get messages from current students, kids dealing with their own Jakes. I always respond, always help, because someone helped me, multiple someones. And that's how you stop predators, not alone, together, with evidence and courage and refusing to be silent. Jake works retail now. Someone spotted him at an electronics store in his hometown, wearing a name tag, making minimum wage. His LinkedIn says he's taking a gap year, but we all know the truth. No university will touch him. No real job will hire him. He played stupid games and won stupid prizes. Meanwhile, the 19 of us are thriving. Doctors, lawyers, teachers, scientists, all the futures Jake tried to steal. We have a group chat, check in sometimes, share wins, support struggles, bond over surviving the same predator. Weird foundation for friendship, but it works. Maya's researching cancer substances now, saving actual lives. I'm in my residency, exhausted but happy. We're planning our wedding, small ceremony, just close friends and family. The people who actually support us, who stood by us, who helped us fight back. Brenda's a victim advocate. Heather runs a nonprofit. Sarah coaches kids with anxiety. Paul's in law school. We all took different lessons from Jake, but we all learned the same thing. Silence protects predators. Speaking up protects everyone else. The new students don't know the full story. Just campus legend now. The kid who tried to blackmail half the school and got destroyed. They joke about it, make memes, turn Jake into a cautionary tale. Good. Let his legacy be a warning. Try to control people and lose everything. I kept one photo from that time, not the substance one. The one of Maya's handwriting in Jake's notebook. Proof that she'd been helping him while he plotted counted against us. Reminder that predators hide behind friendly faces, that help can be weaponized, that trust should be earned, not given freely. But mostly it reminds me of Maya, how she turned Jake's weapon into evidence, how she fought for truth when I was ready to surrender, how she saved us both with chemistry notes and chocolate chip cookies. Girl failed organic chemistry twice, but succeeded where it actually mattered. The cookies are still our thing. Every milestone, every anniversary, every victory over adversity. She bakes, I eat. We remember how close we came to never happening, how one manipulative jerk almost won, how we won instead. My scholarship paid for everything. Undergrad med school, no debt, no strings. The future Jake tried to steal, handed to me free and clear. Sometimes karma actually works. Sometimes the good guys win. Sometimes speaking truth beats keeping secrets. These days when people ask how Maya and I met, we keep it simple. Chemistry tutoring. Let them think it's cute. A nerdy love story. They don't need the full version. The blackmail, the investigation, the trial, the way we took down a predator together. Some stories are better left incomplete.